Maureen, and the entire Kaufman family, congratulations and thank you. Glad you were here this evening. Next, I would like to introduce our second inductee, Craig Dempsey, class of '81, wrestling and football. I don't bite. Hall of Fame wrestling coach Phil Grevenar recalled he was a fierce hitter as a linebacker for WPI. That tenacity carried over with Craig in every wrestling match as an important contributor of the building blocks that transformed WPI wrestling into a dominant New England team. He added 3 New England placings to his other on-the-mat accomplishments. Former coach Bob Weiss remembers, Craig was already at WPI when I arrived. He was the captain and one of the better players of the Trumbull High School that played my Fitch High School in Connecticut's first large school Super Bowl in New Britain. It seemed like he was in every play that day. Fortunately, he didn't lose any of his intense playing ability at WPI. Craig's placard will read the following: wrestling and football, selected captain of both wrestling and football teams, 3-time All-New England wrestler, amassed a career record of 44-15 with 12 pins, qualified for the Nationals at 177 pounds, and led team to second place finish at New England as a senior. All New England linebacker for the first winning football season in 2 decades. Named ECAC Player of the Week in 1980 with 27 tackles in win over Coast Guard. Presented October 7, 2016. Craig?
Yeah, so Brian said there were something like 10,000 athletes that have gone through WPI over the years, so I'm sure there's many other athletes more deserving of this honor than I am. But I am grateful for this rare chance to come back home and thank some people who really shaped my life. One is here in spirit tonight. That's Father Pete Scanlon, who was the longtime chaplain here. He passed away just a year ago this month, and he officiated my wedding to my wife, to whom I owe a great deal. 30 years ago this month, so we're going off to the Cayman Islands for a 30th anniversary. But thinking of Father Pete, and actually, see Ted over there, we had something called the God Squad there at the SIGEP fraternity. We used to go to Mass on Sundays. We definitely needed to go. But thinking of him inspired my speech tonight with a verse from the prophet Micah that reads, You have been told, O mortal, what is good and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice, to love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Now, doing justice is our mission in life, using our God-given gifts to love and serve God and our fellow travelers in life. It marks true north on our moral compass. And mercy is the queen of justice. She shows the way we have to come alongside one another and encourage one another, raise each other up, and help each other along the road toward true north. But what we need most to live a worthy life is humility, which is the fruit of mercy. And it's fuel for the journey which forever begins anew. Our lives, they don't lay out neatly on a map. Life is more like a series of doors that open to unfamiliar territory and reveal detours constantly. Many of those are of our own making because of our mistakes and our selfishness. And some come through no fault of our own. I'm reminded my wife recently had a bout with cancer. Hit us like a bolt out of the blue, very rare form, and thanks be to God she's in full remission. But what is, either way, whether it's our own fault or because of something life hands us, humility is how we navigate the twisting path of life where those doors open to reacquire true north and to choose again to do justice, love mercy. And my dad had just passed away about a year ago from Alzheimer's disease. He was a great role model for justice, doing justice. Lost both of his parents before he graduated high school, but he still went on to attract scholarship at Northeastern, served heroically in Vietnam as a helicopter gunship pilot, and his lesson of justice always stuck with me. You know, he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. In Vietnam, being a helicopter gunship pilot was probably about the most dangerous job you could have. They flew what they call nape of the earth flying. This is where they put the skids of the helicopter right in the jungle canopy. You know, this was before terrain avoidance radar that somebody from WPI probably invented. But you know, it was to avoid ground fire. But guess what? It didn't always work, and so he was shot down twice. One time was benign. He just landed the helicopter because the engine was up. The second time, the round went through the rotor mast. The blades of the helicopter chopped off the front of the helicopter about 1 foot from his feet. They tumbled into the canopy of the jungle, and they survived that crash, and he lived to tell about it. And he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for flying in and saving another crew that had the same fate. He certainly would have died if he didn't go in there. And I remember asking him, you know, hey, Dad, why did you do it? It was something that you weren't required to do. He said, because they would have done it for me. And to me, that's the ultimate of humility. And my late mom, she lost her mom as a teenager, and she suffered with MS most of her life. And her example made the love of God real for me. And she nurtured my thirst for learning and for literature. And she planted these seeds of mercy and humility in me. I tell you, it was a tough row to hoe in my case. And I was a bit of a hot mess coming out of high school. And my teammates who were kind of clustered over there will tell you that I was a hot mess in college too. But somehow those seeds stuck with me. You know, coming out of high school, Princeton recruited me for football. That was the only recruiting I got. And despite those con words, you know, Coach Weiss supposedly thought I was a good player. I must have been too scrawny for them because they didn't pick me up. But I had a high school physics teacher who said, WPI, most schools teach subject matter, but WPI teaches you how to learn. And that was and I think that's absolutely true. I'm going to tell you, I think that's what sets WPI apart. We've hired some for our business, and I certainly know quite a few grads that have done extremely well. But athletics is essential to that, and I thank God for athletics. I walked on both the football and the wrestling teams here. But it's a crucible for learning how to do justice, right? It was talked about in the quote that Brian read, that the discipline, the training, the preparation, winning, losing, instant accountability, these are the things that, you know, the subject matter that you learn in an engineering school is obsolete a few years after you go out, right? You have to continuously learn. But these lessons are forever, and they become the thing that really brings you along in your life, in your professional career. Weiss drove home those lessons after that. They mentioned I had 27 tackles after the Coast Guard game. Well, the other part of that story was against Norwich, we lost. And we had the first winning season that year in something like 20 years or maybe even longer. But we lost to Norwich the week before, Coast Guard, and I played terrible. And I don't know if you've ever seen this NFL TV show, Hard Knocks, but Coach Weiss called me up to his office and gave me a chewing out, very much in line with the Hard Knocks theme of how terrible I was and how I couldn't, you know, hit the broadside of a barn or some other, you know, expletive, deletive type of thing that he said. So after the Coast Guard game with these 27 tackles, fumble recovery, batted down pass, I got on the bus and I walked by him and, you know, gave him that 21-year-old stare that you give him. They say, "You satisfied now, Coach?" He says, "No. Never be satisfied. There's always something you can improve. Besides, you must have been invisible. They didn't even block you." And actually, he was much kinder in the newspapers later on because I did get ECAC Player of the Week, and he said all these nice things about me, but he wasn't going to tell me that to my face. And I never forgot that advice because that is absolutely true. You know, I'm proudly a Catholic, and the Ignatian spirituality is all about putting your head on the pillow at night and reflecting on each day. What could I have done better? And that's served me very well. I also want to especially thank Phil Grevenar because he's a model of justice, mercy, and humility. Senior year, I made it to the finals. I did it the hard way. I lost during the earlier rounds. I had to go through what they call the loser's bracket, and I felt like a loser, tell you. And coming into the championship, this was the deal, right? I'm one of the last weight classes. If I win my match, we win the New England Championships. If I lose, we don't. I lost, and I was devastated. I'm sitting there thinking I let him down, I let the team down. And Phil being Phil, he comes up to me, and he probably doesn't remember this, or maybe he does. He has a great memory. He comes over, puts his arm around me, and I'm going to apologize in advance to any University of Rhode Island graduates that are here. He says, forget it, that kid's going to be flipping burgers at Burger King, and you're going to change the world. And it was like just one of those Phil-like things to say, and you know, I thought he was going to be furious. I thought he was going to tell me how, like Weiss did, how bad I sucked, you know. But he didn't do it. And I got the wild card slot to go to the national championships, which really eased the pain. And I'm sure Phil pulled that off behind the scenes, because that's Phil. You know, he knows every rule, every coach, every official. And to me, you know, I think my teammates can attest that Phil is the kind of guy that embodies Mark's gospel. The Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for the many. That's Phil. So thanks to my coaches, my teammates that are here, to all my WPI family. Your examples inspired me, showed me how to navigate life. What I learned at WPI, I poured into the foundation of my life, and it stood the test of time. It's been a firm footing for me to live as a child of the living God, contribute to our nation, defense as a leader in naval nuclear propulsion, and most importantly, to build a house of love together with my wife Maria, our 3 sons. She took care of those seeds of mercy and humility that my mom put in there. You know, she's the one who put up with me and brought them to life, so I'm very grateful to her as well. So God bless you all, and thanks again for this great honor.